I remember when I started with my career as a teacher, I always had this misconception that active learning is having some activity going on in the class where students are doing some activity, hands-on activity, running around in the class, moving around in the class. But with time, I learned and realized that active learning is not at all only about activity, but it's a very deep way of learning, of engaging students, building up of their skills, of their thinking abilities, where teacher is not at the helm of the process, but is acting as a facilitator or an activator. So to make our understanding deeper on this learner-centered approach, to share with us some wonderful strategies of active learning, to make our classrooms more engaging, we have with us two eminent speakers. So let me introduce them to you today. The first one, Miss Lina Asher, the co-founder of Corroboree. Lina Asher is an educationist and entrepreneur whose current focus lies in helping children unleash their potential through parenting strategies that have a firm base in neuroscience and emotional intelligence. She is the founder of Kangaroo Kids and Billabong High International School, co-founder of Corroboree. Her career has taken off on an impactful journey in education, the reverberations of which will be seen in generations to come. We also have amongst us Mr. João Borges, CEO of Dream Shaper. João Borges is a former teacher currently at the helm of Dream Shaper, an Edtech company that develops online project-based learning tools used by thousands of schools around the globe. So welcome, Ms. Lina and Mr. Borges. It's our privilege to have you. And I'm sure today's learning is going to be immense for us. So we are looking forward to a very enriching session from you. Thank you. And the stage is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, at least from India. We have one more speaker. Her name is Divya Punjabi. Divya and I have worked together for very, very many years, and our focus has always been on active learning. I've used active learning strategies all the way 30 years ago when I was a teacher in a classroom in Australia, to then creating the instructional design upon which all the learning would happen in our classrooms. And there's a reason why, because I've known from intuitively, even before the neuroscience has allowed us to learn this, that if the brain does not engage with actually constructing the information, then it will not understand the importance of that information. And then the brain that doesn't actually connect with the why it's learning something, and the research really backs this up, will not be able to kind of hold on to it, which is why a lot of us have done really well in our grade 4, grade 5 exams. But if we were asked any of that information today, we still would not be able to sort of connect with it. So we know today the retention of information is redundant. I mean, Siri can give you the information whenever you need it. So I'm going to start off with asking Divya something about how she practiced active learning methodology in the physical classroom. And then I'm going to start, then Divya's actually going to ask João some questions about how we could use the Dream Shaper tool to do active learning. And then I will sort of come in whenever I have an additional question for Mr. João, who's actually our partner for Dream Shapers in India. So Divya, can I start off by asking you, we see a lot of older kids engaged in active learning strategies, but for younger children, what are some of the things you can do? For example, if you were to teach them a scientific concept such as sink and float, how would you go about engaging in active learning?
Good afternoon, everybody. So basically in preschool, instead of telling children that, this is going to float and this is going to sink. So basically what we do is that we give them a tub full of, stuff like bricks and maybe stones and whatever, and let them explore. So we encourage them to predict whether it will float or sink, and then actually do the experiment. So in that they realize whether the things which are heavy, they will sink, and if they are light, they will float. So we don't tell them that. So active learning is where the child construct his or her own knowledge. So even with blocks, we don't tell the child that, you need to have a broad base to build a tower, right? We let him explore, even if that means sometimes the tower will fall and he has to rebuild it. It's active learning. So that's what we've always done in preschool, Lina.
So wonderful. What I'd love is if you could take the stage with João and ask the initial questions that you have of how we could use a tool such as Dream Shapers to, have kids actively learn, and then I will make notes and do follow-up questions if I have any.
Great. So yes, I have used the Dream Shaper tool because I did my project on migrant laborers. That was the thing which was close to my heart when the pandemic started, and we were working on the Dream Shapers tool to evaluate it. So João, I've done it, but I still need to ask you, is this the idea behind Dream Shapers, that you want children to engage in active learning, and was it created to do that?
Well, thank you, Divya, for the question. First of all, let me just say good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for your time and for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with Divya, Lina, and everyone. So great, and thank you. And hopefully we'll be able to share some knowledge and to contribute to everything that you have been doing during these workshops along the past months. So yes, for sure. That's the objective, and I'm totally aligned with you and Lina about what should be the role of the teacher, and how active learning methodologies change the process and bring students to the center of the process and make them explore. And when we explore and we understand why things happen, then we learn them faster and better. So sometimes I guess that some teachers are a little bit afraid of putting these things in practice because they have the stress to deliver all the content they should be delivering, and they have to do it fast. And if we start playing project-based learning or playing active learning methodologies, things won't go so fast, but they will go much more solid than fast. And for sure, the objective of everything we do in Dream Shaper, as you know, we are within active learning methodologies. We are really focused on project-based learning, which we believe that is one of the best active learning methodologies, and an active learning methodology that brings lots of other active learning methodologies to the process. Okay, and focusing on PBL, that's exactly the objective, like bringing the student to an active role on the process and giving them the opportunity of exploring things and testing and deciding how to explore and where to explore. So obviously that we try to make it easy for teachers and also for students by kind of bringing a pattern on the way you explore, by leading the students through certain methodologies, certain steps to do that exploration. So we really believe that it's important to give this orientation to the student so that he can use his freedom in the right way. But at the same time, beside giving this orientation, we really believe that he should be guided through a process where he can take decisions, where he can decide where to explore, how to explore, and he will fail and be successful other times. But most of all, he will be leading the process, and he will be giving the space to test and to experiment and them to learn in a different way. So for sure, that's going back to your question, that's the objectives on Dream Shaper.
João, what I find fascinating is a lot of the research I've done ever since I exited the Kangaroo Kids and Billabong High is how we underestimate the importance of autonomy and agency for the learner. And that a lot of what we do when we prescribe it and we subscribe it and we standardize it actually takes away from the learner's engagement and excitement in the learning process. So I love the fact that we put the child at the center of it. The other thing is, even our NEP talks a lot about project-based learning, but I think we would love from you is if we can walk the talk and we can actually demonstrate some of the Dream Shaper capabilities. So as Divya, asks you questions, could actually hands-on show us on the tool. And what I'd love to do as a follow-up is, if anyone's interested, is we could actually give them all access to the tool. Maybe not today because of the paucity of time, but in the future, what we would love to do is give everyone access to the tool, and us do like a community, through this engagement platform, and show everyone how to use the tool. So it'd be great if you could begin by sharing the tool, so that as Divya asked you the questions, you can actually visually take them through how it works for everybody who's a visual learner here.
Great. I will do that. Just a comment before sharing, and then I will share, and we will go through the Q&A using the demo. Just doing a comment on what you just said, that autonomy is fundamental. Like kids nowadays, they have phones on their hands, internet on their hands, and they are autonomous on deciding what to explore and how to explore. And we have to give that autonomy so that we have them engaged on the learning process, and give that autonomy within the classroom or within the learning process that sometimes is inside the classroom, sometimes is outside. But at the same time, I know that people are afraid of this, because do students know how to be autonomous? And that's the question. And this is why we really believe on a kind of a oriented autonomy, and I think that will get easier while looking at the product or the platform itself. But we really think that we should give them autonomy, but we need to give them some orientation to use that autonomy well, and to make it easier for teachers, and to round up all the operational project-based learning. And I think that's a little bit about what we will see while sharing Dream Shaper. So I just need to ask someone authorization to share my screen, and once I have that permission, I will share my screen. But anyway, Divya, you can, while I get that authorization, you can just start with your first question, and then I will share the screen.
Sure. I just wanted to also add is the difference between projects and project-based learning. What happens in a project, because generally most of the schools here, we give children projects to do where the focus is on the end product. Whereas project-based learning, the process is important. And to do the process in the right way, I think Dream Shapers is a perfect tool, because it's got all the steps. Otherwise, it will go back to focusing on the outcome. So what I wanted to ask you, the next question is that, is it going to be, what is the age group, and will the tools be different for the different age groups?
Yeah, so answering the first part, and again, just let me just ask again for the organization to give me access to share screen. But going back, projects can be, or they could be, or they should be project-based learning, but sometimes we miss what project-based learning should be, and this is something that is perfectly normal, and working with projects is a good first step. So, but the truth is that then it depends on which type of projects are we working on, and how much flexibility, how much process, as you said, are we bringing to the students? Is it the project just like go to the internet and just research about some topic and copy paste it and build a PowerPoint, or is it something that we will have to really connect with the real world and really decide where to research and how to research and how to test and discover, let's say. And the process brings discover process, and I think that's the biggest difference. And about Dream Shaper, I'm still waiting for the share screen, but anyway.
Somebody please give João screen sharing rights.
Amit sir?
Okay.
Just yeah, screen sharing rights can be given to Mr. João, right? Everybody, anybody, yeah, yes. So you can go ahead, Mr. João. You can go ahead. You can.
No, actually, I'm sorry, but my button is saying you're not allowed to share your screen, so it's not activated. Oh, now it is. Great. Thank you. No problem. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so let me just share. So going back to the process, I think that the way we look at this is like, okay, if you just tell students to okay, do a project about some subject, but you don't make them go through a process, maybe they will just like find, like, search for a ready to go answer, and they won't learn because they will bring the answer without going through the process. And this is what we try to bring in Dream Shaper. For example, if we ask the students, if the teacher wants to ask the student to do a project about the Newton's law, what we will do is to guide the student through a process, and that process should be a sequence of stages. In this case, we are talking about a research project, but we have other sequences for entrepreneurial projects and problem-solving projects and life plan projects and so on. But in a research project, what we do is we start by, okay, your teacher told you that the subject or the theme of the project will be Newton's law in this case, but let's start by thinking about which will be your starting question. Okay, so this starts changing things since the beginning. That is, look, no, you won't go to Google and write Newton's law and bring a definition. Let's start by thinking about what question, another question you want to do about that. So they start building. Okay, some students will ask, what is Newton's law, and who invented it, and why is it important, and what? And so students will argue or will think about a question they will make, and then they will argue its relevance, and everything starts from here. So as Lina was saying in the beginning, what we bring is, look, we will bring ownership, we will involve them in the process, and we will make them explore it further, because they will start by the let's say the starting point will be their curiosity, their question, the way they want to explore it. Okay, and then what we do is basically we bring them through a sequence of stages where they will do an initial research. We will explain why do you have to find keywords, and what are good and bad information sources, and how do you register an initial research. And then they will do observation and interviews, case studies, and so on, until they do a reflection in the end, and they think about the limitations of their study and future questions they want to make about the Newton's law. And so what we do is, like, we are helping the student to have this oriented autonomy, as I said in the beginning, and to being led by a process where they will build their knowledge, in this case about the Newton's law. And while they build that, they start building content, because they are saying, okay, first of all, which is my question and its relevance, and then I will do my initial research, and I will set up my keywords and my information sources and so on. And so I will go to the process, and then what we do is, like, basically we start building his content in a presentation or a report where they see all the content they built, and the teacher can also see it. And so what we do with this is basically turning this step-by-step process in a project in the end, and making sure they learned from it. Okay, so I think that I just had to come back a little bit to go back to your first part of your question, process and projects versus project-based learning, showing a little bit on how we look into project-based learning. And I was showing like a research project process, let's say. Here, for example, we have a problem-solving project process. Like, we will study about the SDGs, and then I will study about my community. I will define which starting problem I want to look at, and then I will know about the problem by looking at it, experiencing that problem, talking to people that suffer from that problem, and then I will come up with a solution. So we really believe that the process is key, and enrolling the student with the process, giving that autonomy, oriented autonomy, but at the same time the freedom to choose the starting question, to argue its relevance, we teach them, we explain what are good and bad information sources. Now choose yours. Okay, I won't tell you where to go. I'm just telling you what you need to know to decide where to go. And I think that's the magic of PBL, and the magic of engaging students with this type of methodology. The second part of your question, and as you just saw, we have like we allow students to work on different types of projects. So the idea here is, like, the teacher decides what he wants, what does he want the students to learn from. Like, For example, I want my students to learn about the Newton's law or photosynthesis or whatever, history of something, and I want them to do a problem-solving project about environmental changes, or a research project about the Newton's law in this case. And so the teacher will decide, well, are they going to work in groups or individually, or in between each dates, and what's the theme of the project and the type of project. But what happens then is that the student comes to the tool and he tells what the teacher told him to do. So, okay, I'm working on a research project, and I'm working on a single subject project with the group work, etc. And once he brings that information in, what the tool does is like the tool will guide the student through the right sequence, the right process to help him building the project. So I'm even coming back here to show you that. So basically, I'm sorry, someone needs to mute. Sorry. Oh, great. Okay. Okay. So I will keep going. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I think you need to turn your mic on mute. Vimal Joshi?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I will.
Are we able to mute her? Is the administrator able to mute her?
No, we will have to.
Okay. Maybe I'll just move forward. Should I?
Yes, I think you have to just keep going. If someone can mute Vimal, that would be great.
Mr. Vimal, please put yourself on mute.
Someone's trying to watch TV and learn at the same time. You're multitasking.
Amit sir. Amit sir.
Maybe we can just mute everyone, and then.
Yeah, but
please mute that person.
Amit sir. Just hold on 1 minute. Let me call him.
So, João, while we're waiting for that, what I find really fascinating is in classrooms, we usually focus on the end product, the outcome, the poster the kids make, the assessment, the marks. And here in this tool, Dreamshaper tool, the product, the outcome kind of almost makes itself. And it's the whole process that's really important. And that's where the child maintains his focus.
Yes, yeah, and of course that the final output is important for the students, because it's where they see their project all together, and it's important for them to present. That's also a really giving them the opportunity to present the projects, and even I will share my screen again just to show how we do that, but giving them the opportunity to build a final product and to show it. It's really important, and this is why, like, we really focus on the process. As you just saw, they're going through the process and working a step at a time and a stage at a time, but then we build the final project, and we even have during the process a specific stage for them to prepare to present that final output, let's say. So the final output is obviously important. As a reward, we have something that's at the start, a process and an end. But the truth is that the big learnings and the big skill development and the big motivation comes during the process, while they are exploring and while they are working together to build an answer to the starting question they decided to approach. And Divya made another question that I will just answer. That is, so you understood that as I was showing, and just going back to where I was. Let me just share again. Going back to where I was. Okay, here I am. Just taking this off. Okay, so as I was saying, when they start, they come and they register information. The teacher told them, okay, it's a research project. It's about that theme. I'm going to work in a group and so on. And so basically what we say is, look, come in, register what your teacher asked for, and then we will guide you through a process. So you will decide the type of project you will do, and then we will guide you by various steps. Within those steps, you'll have activities you have to go through. You have to go through all the activities. Every time you finish a stage, we will show you which skills you were developing along that stage and why those skills are important for your life and for the process, let's say. So we have this process that is adjusted or automatically adjusted considering the type of project, the context of usage, the theme of the project, and so on. And it's also adapted considering the age of the student. So going back to your question, Divya, basically what we do is we have the age groups are mainly from the 6th, 7th grade to the end of high school, but then we have like different versions for different age groups, okay? Different versions of the process. And when I say the process, I'm talking about these project methodologies we bring in. So we always have these different methodologies, but with different levels of complexity for students on different age groups. Okay. So this is how we deal with process, with project versus project-based learning, and this is like the age groups we work with and what differentiates the tool for different age groups.
So I think active learning focuses on the other skills also, which are important, which Dream Shapers helps is about research, collaboration, interviewing skills, putting down stuff together. It's not only that. So that is what active learning really is about. Also, the next question, Ja, what I want to ask you is one of the important aspects of project-based learning is scaffolding, so that children get that kind of scaffolding support from the teachers. So how is Dream Shapers designed for that?
Okay, great. Just doing a comment on what you just said. Yeah, I think that the main objective remains the same: making students learn and engaging on their learning. So the main objective with active learning methodologies, it's the same objective we always had, that is making sure students learn. But the truth is that nowadays they need other motivations to learn, and active learning methodologies bring a much more engaging way because of all the reasons we just discussed, for them to learn and for them to want to learn. And of course, that then there's another thing that you said, and I just want to reinforce, that is what they are learning. And I think that learning about the Newton's law, learning about physics, or learning about history, or learning about biology, or the other curricular contents is obviously super important and one of the main objectives. But learning about other skills, and I think this is an interesting discussion, another discussion we could have, because for some time people called soft skills as non-cognitive skills, as if they weren't developable or teachable. But I think they're not non-cognitive skills. I prefer to call them like social emotional skills or whatever, because we can teach these type of skills, and we can develop this type of skills. And as we know nowadays in the 21st century, and it's interesting also to say that everyone is talking about the future of education, 21st century education, but 21st century is not the future, it's the present, and actually it's the present for a while now. And so in the present moment, soft skills for the personal and professional and academic success of these kids are as important as the other curricular and content or cognitive skills, however we want to call them. And so active learning methodologies, again, the main objective is for them to learn. I think the difference is that it's not only focusing on learning maths and biology and English, it's also learning soft skills, which are as important for the future, and learning in an engaging way. Okay. Now going back to your question, and I think that I should share my screen to approach a little bit how teachers manage this process and go along the process helping the students. Let me just share again my screen just to, and I think that most importantly, it's really cool to have the opportunity to share with all these 130 persons how is Dream Shaper. We are using this platform with 1,000 schools, like in different continents and different regions of the world in different languages. So it's a pleasure to show you the product, but most of all, just using the product to share what we believe in. And I think that this is between me, Lina, Divya, and lots of people here for sure. So I think that showing the product helps us illustrate what we believe in, and this is why I'm sharing to answer the questions. So just going back to the product, I think two things that I would like to show. One is this panel you see here. Like we want to make the students understand there's a process and it's really good to go through the process, because once we go to the process, we learn, we are more motivated, and once we understand there's a process, everything gets much easier. But I think that we do in all stages is every time they finish a stage along the process, we are telling them which were the skills they have been developing. And again, about scaffolding and about process, we really believe that, okay, it's really important, and this is with Dream Shaper or without Dream Shaper. Like students nowadays, they don't have time. They need to understand why they are doing something. This is what I want to say. And so I think that having a pretty product or having a really using active learning methodology, there are lots of ways to motivate students, but making sure they understand the process, it's fundamental to get them engaged. So they need to understand, why am I doing something? Where did I came from? Where am I going? And so we are always doing this type of things, like, what were you doing during this part of the process? What were the challenges met? What were the skills you were developing? Lots of times we bring content like, well, look, this, like, digital culture or critical thinking is really important for you because this and that. So we are always explaining them why are they doing this and why it's important. And also in the end, like, we ask them to map how was their skill development. So we show them in the end how the skills were developed around, considering like a survey or questionnaire that we make to them, how was their skill development along the way. So they get with all the Newton's law project, okay, and all the knowledge, but they understand the skills they have been developing and why are they important. And we really think this is important. This is just to illustrate the previous answer. But now for the second part, like, as I said, so the teacher is obviously controlling all the process, not leading all the process. And as we said in the beginning, more as the facilitator, as a leader, and not as someone that has all the content and all the knowledge and it's just like sharing the knowledge, because like that's the old-fashioned way. And so the teacher will tell the students, look, this is the subject of, or the theme of the project. We are going to work on a project during a month or during a week. It's an individual project or a group project. So they decide how the process, how the experience will be. And then obviously they have to be able to follow up on what is happening. So what we do is like, okay, the teacher decides, then the students come to the platform, to the platform, the students put that information, the platform brings the process or the methodology that will guide the students every step by step, guides them through the step by step, but then builds that presentation for them. Here we are on an entrepreneurship project, and what happens is that the teacher has access to all this. Okay, so the teacher can go to his class and see all the projects, and also this presentation, this final output of the project that is getting ready for the students is also getting ready for the teacher, to make it easier for him or her to follow on their projects and to scaffold and to help them along the way. So the teachers can come here and see the answers. They can give feedback. They can evaluate the quality of the answer. They can give feedback, and the students will, once they give feedback, the students will get a notification. They have a team wall where they can talk to this team or to the team that is around working on this project. They have a class wall to work with their students. Just going back a little bit, so here what I'm looking at is a base dashboard. If I'm a student, I have my projects and then my project portfolio. So if you see here, like along this school year, I developed 4 projects, and here's my project portfolio. Projects for different courses or different classes with different teachers, different type of project. But if I'm a teacher,
João, I'm seeing 4 different types of projects, or 4 different kind of paths. Could you just show the 4 different paths and what each one kind of takes you through?
Sure. Just to show this panel here before, that is the teacher, basically the teacher view. So if I'm a teacher, I can enter my class, it's a demo class, but I can enter my class and see all the projects, the students within each project, how much they have completed. I can enter a project, give feedback, evaluate. I can share material. I can lock and unlock workstation. So there's lots of things teachers can do to go and to let's say to follow on the students' projects and help them along the process. Okay, about types of projects, great question. Just to go a little bit in depth about that. So we have 4 types of projects. Again, these are 4 types of frameworks. It's not 4 types of projects, okay? Because the project, like if it is about photosynthesis or about climate changes, those are 2 different projects. They can be both research projects, but they are different projects. So what we have is 4 project frameworks, project methodologies. Then you can do 100 types of projects within each of these methodologies, okay? But the 4 type of methodologies that we have are these 4. So research project, community or problem-solving project, entrepreneurship project, and life project. And just talking a little bit about these 4 frameworks, what we have is the research project is the one I was showing you. Like the idea is the teacher will define a theme or a set of themes. The student will go and decide the starting question, and then argue its relevance and go through a sequence of a process, a sequence of stages. Oh, sorry, a sequence of stages to learn about that content and to build his knowledge about that theme, but going through his or her starting question. Okay, and this research project is used like in lots of contexts, because we have like it can be used on any subject, single subject project about any theme. It can be used on interdisciplinary projects where we are crossing themes that cross knowledge from different areas or different subjects. It can be used on like a sciences club or any other initiative within the school where we want students to research, but to research in an active way, to research starting with their own questions and with their own exploration. Then the community project is, instead of starting with a starting question, we propose that the students start with a starting problem. Okay, so I showed you a little bit of this methodology a couple of minutes ago. It's like they start about researching about their community, and your community can be lots of things. It can be like your school, your family, your city, your country, your continent, or like your city park. So you can choose a community, and we explain that to them, and the teacher will work with them on that. But then they research about their community, they choose a starting problem, they research about that problem, contacting in the real world with the problem, and then they propose a solution. And this is really used on interdisciplinary projects or projects on courses where we are working about talking about environmental changes or societal problems or COVID or other things. Okay, about entrepreneurship project, we don't start with a starting question nor a starting problem. We start with a starting idea. Okay, so it can be an idea to solve a problem, or it can be an idea just to fulfill your dreams or whatever. Your dreams may be more social or more commercial, or we leave it open for the teacher to define that scope with the students. So they start with an idea and they build a business model above that idea. And the life project, which is really interesting, it's like helping the students to build their own life project. And this is interesting because like here the theme of the project is usually what's your life project. And we know that students like from 12 years old to 18, they can do a different life project every month because they are growing and they want to test different things. But what we do is like they go on a self-knowledge process, like their identity, their skills, their dreams, and then they learn how to build a path to go from where they are today until fulfilling their dreams. And then we apply design thinking to that.
Yeah. So what I kind of love, João, as I was growing up, I was lucky, I think, to be able to work ever since I was 12. I worked in milk bars. I worked, I was working for fundraising, so social entrepreneurship, and we did it all in the real world. And today, with the way life has taken us, we're more fearful for our kids. We're not as comfortable with them to sort of go anywhere and everywhere. We see so many challenges with stranger danger and fear, that kids don't get as much opportunity to sort of go out and explore the world. But what I love in the 4 categories is actually what I stepped out into real life and interacted with real life with. And now we've got a tool that's going to allow kids to do that. And the beauty is that, it will allow, the minute we allow children to, sort of spend lots of time investigating and responding to something that's really authentic as a problem in their head, or it's really engaging, or it's a complex question that they have, it's a complex problem that they know, or it's a challenge that that they see. It's not something that they're thrusting onto them. I think there's a rise in engagement and commitment to solving this. So one of the things that I love, and the reason why we've kind of taken, we're bringing Dream Shapers to India, is that a lot of time when I see technology being used, it's largely being used to consume and absorb knowledge. And that's sort of the lowest level of the Bloom scale, as all of us teachers here kind of know. And what we have to use technology for is the higher Bloom's level of the scale, which is actually publishing or constructing, creating. And that's what I think I love about Dream Shaper allowing us to do. So there's also, it's not a passive learning tool. You have to actively engage with it for it to be able to do anything with you. And I think that's where I'm very happy about this. So I'd love questions from the people who are online. It'd be great if you have any questions about active learning methodology. It doesn't have to be about Dream Shapers in specific, but even about some of the ways maybe Divya and I used active learning methodology in our classroom. So it'd be great if you can ask questions. The other thing I kind of liked about what I saw on the tool is when you were showing the maps of where skills are being developed other than the cognitive skills, and why this is really important is because nobody knows. I mean, you can take the most, the largest thought leader in the world. So if you go to any of my social media today, you see a snippet of an interview I'm doing with Seth Godin, and where he's saying, in underdeveloped countries or developing countries, we were often happy to allow our kids to be a cog in the machine, right? Whereas in the West, we always wanted kids to not be a cog in the machine and to be forward-thinking and creators and entrepreneurs. But he's sort of talking to us about being very careful that these cogs in the machine are also going to be outdated, because cogs in the machine are going to be overtaken by technology. So because we don't know what the future world is going to look like, but what we do know is that some of the more left-brain thinking, like the analysis and that can be replaced by artificial intelligence, and it's the right brain stuff that that you included, the empathy interviews. I remember that a part of the whole thing. Those are the skills that are really important, and I love the way it maps what skills are being sort of looked at. So if there's, Divya, you have any more questions for João?
Yeah, so I just wanted to know is that, we always have this whole thing about how technology, because as Lina said, we are using it even currently more as just to give information. So how is technology really going to support active learning through Dream Shapers?
Oh, great. Just doing a short comment. I totally agree that like machines machines are fastly substituting every technical knowledge, but I think it will take a while at least. I would not say never. We had some really nice people traveling to the space yesterday, and maybe like 20 years ago we would say that would never happen, like do a commercial flight to space. But I wouldn't say never, but I think that it will take a while for machines to have the critical thinking we can have, the empathy we can have, and so on. And so we really believe, and it's not it's like the educational community in general believes that these soft skills are really what will make a difference in the future for the kids of nowadays. And about technology, I totally agree with what Lina said, that most of technology is being developed to kind of digitalize what we already do, and that's where we want to do it differently, and where we believe that things should be done in a different way. So digitalizing traditional teaching and learning is just changing the format, but not changing the way we do it. And so we really believe that technology brings an opportunity to change the way we do it. And what we do in Dream Shaper, we don't do e-learning, so we are not proposing an online learning experience. We are proposing a technology that helps teachers putting project-based learning in practice on their presential classes. But the thing is that the tool will help bringing that process, that framework will be the kind of the GPS for the students, explaining what they have to do, but they will do it inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in the real world, interview people, and so on. And so we really believe that technology can be a huge ally of the change in education, not by digitalizing it, not by allowing you to do everything you were doing for the past 100 years, but now in a digital way. Of course, that during the pandemic, that was fundamental, like giving the opportunity for people to, from the one day to the other, to do what they were doing. Obviously, we totally think that was necessary, but we have been doing this for 6 years now, or 7. So we also didn't know about the pandemics, and yeah, so we really believe that technology, like most of the educational technology that came on the first years, came to digitalize things that were already being done. And I think that we now are on a group of technologies that is bringing change, helping change.
João, I'm wondering if we can have a little bit of fun with everyone who's online, and if you can, if somebody could give us an example of something they would like as the kids to do as project-based learning. If somebody could suggest not Newton's law but some other idea, and we could just have a little bit of a pleasure. How does that sound?
Sounds good. We will have to have people participating, but I think that around these 114 we have, I'm sure that someone will come up.
So can I suggest, our school, we have taken some project-based learning topics for different grades. So one topic which we had taken was understanding different cultures across the globe. And
Great.
one for higher grades we had taken was water.
So let's play with that one, right? Understanding cultures. So
yes,
João, you want to bring the tool up, and let's play with that one.
Yeah.
So we need a starting question.
I think that that's the typical topic that could be worked with any kind of project, or project framework, because like to understand, we can approach that in lots of ways. So learning about
But
other cultures.
how about if we asked, would this be a good starting question? How do different cultures, how has the pandemic affected cultures depending on the cultural way of thinking?
Yeah, so that's a really good example of, okay, we are setting up the theme of the project, and I can just come here. We are setting up the theme of the project, but then we are making students think about starting questions, and that could be how are different cultures adapting to the pandemics. But just to say that doing a research project is usually the immediate way of approaching it, and it makes lots of sense. Okay, we want to learn about different cultures. Let's do research projects about different cultures. Then we can go a little bit beyond, and okay, let's do research project about different cultures. But let's leave for the students making the questions they want, and then let's put each group presenting their starting questions and their answers to those questions, so that we build that group knowledge about different questions. But I just want to say that, like, student research project it's really interesting. But for example, we could do a community project. How we can help different communities around our country or around the globe adapting to COVID, or an entrepreneurship project. How can we build an app to share about how different cultures adapted to COVID, to bring good examples to other cultures, So I just wanted to make this let's say this challenge of saying that like we can use lots of frameworks. It just doesn't need to be only research. Like if we do an entrepreneurial project about diversity or multiculturality, if this exists, we will be learning a lot about that. So I think that, Lina, maybe because the process will be a little bit slower, I think that maybe just bringing this, if you agree, bringing these ideas on how can we approach this with projects, like building research projects. Each group will do a different starting question, then every group will bring their answers, and we will cross that knowledge in between them, or building, or even leaving to them. One thing that we see lots of schools doing is, okay, you will choose the type of project you want. The subject is different cultures around the world. Now you will decide if you will do what you want to do. You have Dream Shaper, there's different types of projects to do. And some students, and this is something that I also find interesting, that is, some students are more into researching. Some others are more into putting their hands and building a business, and respecting that nature of them. I think it's the key to make them engaged and to make them learn with that engagement. So I think this.
Yeah. So the beauty is that you could take any topic and you could weave it across 4, depending on the child's area of interest. So there's one question that's come. João, does this also have provision of mentors from different sectors?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Yes, we can add that, because like each project has a group of members. Okay, so usually if you are a teacher, you have your classes organized, and you will have your students building projects within those classes, and you can bring external mentors in different ways. One is putting the external mentor with the view of a teacher. So he's looking into all the class, all the projects, and this class might be like a real class, or even a digital class that is crossing different classes, different real classes. Or you can bring different external mentors for specific projects as group members of each project. So it's really interesting. We'll see lots of people doing that because this is something that we really believe in. We are actually developing something that is interesting, that is an external tool for schools and universities. We also have another version for universities to capture challenges that are proposed by the community itself. And so starting to do that connection with the real world, and bringing mentors is a really good way to connect to the real world and to bring the knowledge the students will need to go through. And so yes, it allows to do it, and it can be done in different ways. So putting them at the project level, and he will be as a new team member for that group that will help that group in everything they need to build the project, or even kind of helping the teacher by mentoring all the projects, and he will come in as a teacher, or even both. Okay, so yes, it's really flexible because yeah, basically.
So there's another question that's come in. Dream Shapers is really a wonderful tool. Still, other than Dream Shapers, can you suggest some other techniques as well to facilitate active learning in the classroom in current scenario? So I'm going to speak a little bit about some of the things I did, and then Divya headed up some of the work we did around actually using COVID and the pandemic as an active learning, to do active learning in the real world. So some of the things that we used to do in school is, if you're teaching a book, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you could do it through Dream Shapers, or you could do it on your own, is, to think about some of the topics and concepts that get thrown up out of the literature book that apply in the real world, where kids can actually do active learning. So, where they can learn about branding, supply, demand, pricing, profit and loss, creating their own chocolates, creating print and television ads, packaging, and actually understanding simple balance sheets, and through setting up their own kind of mini chocolate factory in the school or in the home. And these are some of the things you can do even now while you're doing online learning, because you can engage kids. You can do one class on branding, for example, take kids through the various high-end to low-end brands, and then look at how they kind of translate into the chocolate world, and then get kids to go out and create a brand of chocolate to come back to present to the rest of the class what the USP, etc., is. And I think some of this could be done through Dream Shapers, and some of this can even be done without Dream Shapers. I've sort of engaged in active learning throughout, and even when you can't do active learning, you can do active thinking. So if you're teaching the digestive system in biology, you could actually set up a case study, which is a murder case, and ask kids to work out why would a forensic scientist need to examine the contents of somebody's stomach to ascertain the time of death. If you're teaching types of government, and if you're teaching democracy, you can actually let kids form their own political parties with their own ideologies and have a mock election. And you can actually do all of this online as well. And so active learning is just based on a theory of I as a learner, I'm going to construct my own learning, and I'm going to build my own understanding. And then how does it happen in the real world? Divya, could you talk a little bit about how we used the time of COVID, and what are some of the things we ask kids to do, which firstly, it's active learning itself because it's right there. It's in your home, whether you want it or not, through every conversation that happens, through every news channel that's beaming into your classroom. Can you just remember some of the things that we got kids to do?
So one thing is, we were doing a topic on survival for grade 4, where we were talking about adaptation and everything. But what we did is we brought survival into this context during COVID. So it was about survival of different strata of people also. That's when, again, children focused on the problems of the migrant laborers who left. We also brought in the element when we made a separate COVID journal. We spoke about history, how Spanish flu happened, and compared it with this, how that spread, what happened that time, how it took longer time, how the vaccination. Then we also gave them, simple tips for social emotional learning. We gave them ideas how to express gratitude to the health workers. We did graphing because we also spoke about how the cases were going up in some places and they were not going up in the other things. So we did a lot of things where we integrated it again and made it interdisciplinary, but we gave children the opportunity to research because anyway, everything was virtual learning, right? So it was not fixed. In fact, even the module we changed for India, Lina, for social studies also, instead of giving direct instruction, we moved it to project-based where the kids had to actually make pamphlets. Why would you want people to come to a particular city? So if you're staying, say, in Bhopal, what is it about Bhopal? So the history, the geography, everything, they had to research, put it together as a travel brochure or a travel blog. We gave them different ways that they could express themselves. So all this we've done through project-based.
So what I would love to do offline, João and Divya, is to actually take that conceptually and see how we could build it into a research-based project and maybe put it online for kids to sort of just kind of experiment with. So I think we're running out of time. It's 4:30, and I'd like to really thank Smita Gandhi, who's the Vice Principal of RRIS, for inviting us. Inviting João all the way from Portugal, and Divya and myself, thank you so much. I believe your principal is in hospital taking care of her mom, so all of us, our hearts go out to her, and we hope, things turn out well. When she kind of wrote to me and apologized, I said, please just look after your mom, and I'm sure Smita's gonna make sure we have a great time.
We really had a great time, ma'am. Thank you. It was wonderful. The strategies, the way you have shared, and I really feel that Dream Shapers has really done a great job, and it's really a wonderful tool. Thank you, Lina ma'am. Thank you, Divya ma'am. Sorry, I couldn't welcome you. I was not aware that you are going to be one of the speakers. So
I'll tell you what happened is the internet I'm in Goa, and the internet just has been jumping off line the whole day. So Divya was prepared and I was prepared, and then I said, now we're both prepared and we both look so good, so let's just come on.
But it was a wonderful talk, and I'm sure teachers must have taken a lot of learnings today with them. Thank you very much. Thank you once again for taking out time for this wonderful session, and looking forward to a long-term relationship, good guidance and mentorship from you in the future as well.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste again, everyone. Thank you all educators for joining us. Thank you, Divya ma'am. Thank you, Miss Lina, and thank you, Mr. João. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And see you all next week again on Monday for 59th Aadharshila Talk. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.